Welcome to ninth grade. Almost. It's actually not ninth grade. You're still in eighth grade, but only like 2 more weeks of classes. Literally 2 more weeks of classes, and then you'll be finished with all of your regular classes for eighth grade. That's amazing. But right now it's class 113. Guys, welcome to another week, and almost welcome to ninth grade. So today we're learning about how to use those trigonometric ratios that we learned to actually solve problems, okay? Because last class you were not solving problems, really. You were just finding ratios, right? So I want you guys to imagine that this length, this x, imagine that's a tree, okay? What I'll do is just for you, I'll draw. This is my artwork for you, okay? Here we go. That's a good looking tree right there. Okay, imagine that's a tree and it's like super tall, okay? And let's say it is like so tall you cannot climb it, but let's say you are doing like construction or some job where you need to know the height of that tree, we'll say in meters, okay? What if you can't climb it? How do you find the height of that tree? Well, there's actually a way to do that. And you can find the height of that tree without climbing it using trigonometry, okay? All you need to know in order to know the height of the tree is how far you are. So let's say that you are right here. All right, there's you. All you need to know is how many meters you are from the bottom of the tree. And let's say you have a laser. And you're like standing right there and you shine the laser to the very top of the tree, right? All you need to know is the angle at which you are shining the laser, right? In this case, it's 23 degrees, and you can use an instrument to measure that angle, right? You just need to know the angle at which you are shining the laser to the top of the tree, right? And the distance you are from the tree, and then you can use trigonometry to know exactly how tall the tree is. Okay, that's the beauty of trigonometry. One of the many applications of trig. Okay, so let's talk about how to do this. Here we have a triangle, and they give us an angle and a side. Okay, before we solve this problem, let's review. Let me just write the SOHCAHTOA. Okay, I left some space up here so we can say SOHCAHTOA. Okay, and we know that this is sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent equals opposite over adjacent. You're going to use this for the next 3 years. 9, 10, yeah, next 3 years in school for sure. If you're not using this in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, there is something wrong because you need this for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade geometry, physics, and physics, okay? 10th and 11th grade physics. So what can we do to find x? It's actually pretty easy, okay? And this is, this is like one of your homework problems, okay? So they give us an angle and a side. We need to figure out which two sides are involved, okay? Is it the opposite and adjacent, opposite hypotenuse, adjacent hypotenuse, right? So first let's figure out which two sides are involved. We have the 6 is from the reference angle. The 6 is, what is it? It's the adjacent, right? It is the side that's touching the angle that is not the hypotenuse. Okay, so 6 is the adjacent A, right? So that means we could use cosine because there's an A, or tangent. But now, before we decide to use cosine or tangent, we need to know what is the other side involved in this problem. What is the other side involved? Well, x, right? Which side is x? Is it the opposite, O, or hypotenuse? Obviously not hypotenuse, right? Because here's the right angle. Boom. We know the hypotenuse is the side that is opposite the right angle, right? So that means the x, the side that is not touching the reference angle, is the opposite, O, right? Opposite of 23 degrees. So we have opposite and adjacent. Okay? We need to know that. O and A is what we have. So now which trig function, this, or this, involves O and A? There's only one. O and A, only tangent. Right? Only tangent. So watch what I do to find x. I'm going to say tangent of 23 equals opposite over adjacent, right? Because you know that TOA is tangent equals opposite over adjacent. So what is the opposite? We just said x, right? We're going to go x, we know is opposite, right? Over adjacent is 6, right? Now, how do we find x? You guys did, those dogs. I mean, maybe his barking sounds cute, but when he does that every day, it gets old, like pretty fast, and it's not so cute after a while. Yeah. Okay, so here we have tangent of 23 equals x over 6. How do we find x? You've done problems like this in some ways. Okay, all you need to do is make this side a fraction. Okay, and then you can solve by cross multiplying. Right? So watch. Tangent of 23 is the same as saying tangent of 23 over 1. Okay? Now we can cross multiply. We know that this times that, tangent of 23 times 6 equals x times 1. Okay? Now this one is easier than some that you'll see on this worksheet. Okay? Because this problem involves no dividing. Right? So now we're going to go tangent of 23 times 6, or you can go 6 times tangent of 23, right? Same thing. Equals x times 1 is x, okay? Now, we're going to go to our calculator. And before you guys use your calculator, you need to make sure that you're in the correct mode. I actually talked about this in class 114. You'll see on Thursday and Friday. Thursday if you're 8A, Friday if you're 8B. But I'll tell you right now also, and I'll remind you again on Thursday, because I already recorded the video for class 114 lecture. So how do we get our calculator in the correct mode? Well, we need to click mode. So I clicked it twice, 2 times, and then you'll see it says degree, radian, gradient. We want degrees, okay? Your calculator is probably already in degrees, unless if you have been a bad boy or bad girl and you just like click buttons randomly on your calculator, then you probably have changed it on accident. But we need degrees, so I'm gonna click 1. Boom. And now you'll see, it's kind of hard to see on this video, but there should be a little D up there on your calculator. You always wanna make sure that you have that little D before you start doing trigonometry functions in your calculator. In 9th grade and 10th grade, you actually will use a different mode. Sometimes you'll use radians, but for right now, we need degrees, okay? So mode 1. Okay, now we're in degrees. So we need to say 6 times. Now, whenever you're like not sure if you need to use parentheses or no, I say error on the side of using parentheses, just to be safe. So in this case, if you do no parentheses, I think you'll get the same answer. But I like to use parentheses just to be safe, because tangent of 23 is separate from 6. Okay, so parentheses tangent 23, like that. I just pressed tangent and then 23. Okay. It's not tangent times 23, okay? That's different. I think that's nothing. Watch what happens if you do tangent times 23. I think you get a error. Yeah. Okay, so we're doing 6 times and then parentheses, tangent, and then immediately 23, okay? And then close the parentheses like that. Now, when you do that in your calculator, then you press equals. You get 2.546, da, 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 okay? And they said in the instructions, round to the nearest 10th. So what they're saying, as most of you know, probably, is they're saying only round to one number after the decimal. So we have 2.5, and then after the 5 is a 4. Because this is not, the 4 is not 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, this 5 stays the same. So 2.5 is our rounded answer. So 2.5 equals x, right? Now what's so beautiful is that this 2.5, they did not say if it's meters or feet or whatever, yards, but this 2.5 would have given you, that is the height of this triangle. And if it were a tree, if you were doing some job where you needed to find the height of that tree and you could not climb it, boom, you just use trigonometry to find the height of that tree using only two pieces of information: your distance from the tree and the angle at which you were shining the laser to the top of the tree. Isn't that crazy? So 2.5 is x, your rounded answer. And you can see that 2.5 is what we should get, okay? All right, these next two we can do faster because we talked about the basics already. All right, number 2. This 74, sometimes they put the angle a little bit further from where it should be, but this 74 is referring to that angle, okay? And we need to find x, okay? So like before, let's look at what two sides do we have? Okay, so let's start with the 19. We have the angle here. Here's the right angle. So I know that, well, this 19 right here, this side right here, is touching the angle, okay? It is touching the angle, which means it is is it opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Adjacent, right, because it's touching, and it's not the hypotenuse, okay? So 19 is adjacent, so we have A, and then x is the other side we have involved in this problem. What is x? Is it the opposite O or hypotenuse H? Here's the reference angle. We need to remember where the reference angle is because that will change things. So here's the reference angle, and we see that x is opposite from the right angle, the 90 degrees, which means we know it is the hypotenuse. So we have A and H, okay? Which trig function involves A and H? There's only one. What is it? Cosine, okay? So watch how I do this. This one's a little bit different than number 1. So we have cosine, like I said, so we're going to say cosine of 74 degrees. Okay, you don't need to write the degrees if you're doing the algebra, in my opinion. We know it's degrees. If they ask you for like an angle for your answer, then you would say the answer is like this many degrees, whatever. But when I'm doing the algebra calculations, I don't think you need to write the degree every time. Now, adjacent over hypotenuse is cosine, right? CAH, adjacent over hypotenuse. A over H. Okay, so which one is the adjacent, did we say? 19, right? And then hypotenuse is x, right? So what do we do to find x? Once again, we need to make both sides a fraction, right? So, boom. Now, remember, on number 1, we had x on top, so that was like super easy. On number 2, it's not that hard, but it's a little bit, I think, a little bit more difficult. So let's cross multiply. We get cosine of 74 times x. So cosine 74 times x, or you could put the x first, equals 19 times 1. Right? Now, how do we find x? We need to divide both sides by cosine of 74, right? Because this is cosine of 74 times x equals 19. So divide by cosine 74, you get x, right? And then we need to do 19 divided by cosine 74. So here we are. We already know that we're in degrees. So we're going to say 19 divided by, and then I would say, just to be safe, use parentheses, even though in this case I don't think you have to. Divided by, so 19 divided by cosine 74, like that, and then equals, and you get 68.9, okay? X equals 68.9, okay? And they never told us like if this 19 is meters or feet or kilometers or whatever, so we don't need to put units like meters or feet or whatever in the answer, okay? So we rounded to 1 to the tenths, right? And we know that they gave us, we had a 3 after the 9, so the 9 stays a 9. And so that should be the answer. 68.9 is X. There it is. 68.9, right? Not that bad. You're doing trig right now. You're doing trigonometry. All right, last one, number 3. Okay, the first one was tangent. The second one was cosine. I purposely made the third one sine, but the process is similar for all of them. Okay, so here's the angle. And we have 2 sides involved. We have X and 18. Okay, so which 2 sides are these? Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse for each one? Let's start with 18. 18 is touching the reference angle because this 16 is right here, right? Just like the 23, I didn't put the arc, but that was the 23. So the 18 is the adjacent, right? Touching it, and it's not the I was wrong. 18 is not the adjacent. Because look, here's the right angle. Which side is always not touching the right angle? What is it? Hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. So 18 is H, hypotenuse. And then from this reference angle, 16, X is the opposite, right? Because it's not touching the reference angle. Okay. So hypotenuse, H, and opposite. So O and H are the two sides. Now let's figure out which trig function involves O and H. Only sine, right? This has H and this has O, but this does not have H and this does not have O, right? So only sine. So sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we're going to say sine of 16 equals, what do we say is the opposite? X over hypotenuse, even though I accidentally said adjacent before. 18 is the hypotenuse, H. Opposite over hypotenuse, right? Same ratios you guys learned before, right? So now how do we find X? We need to cross multiply. Before we cross multiply, we want a fraction on both sides. So we're going to say sine of 16 over 1 is the same as sine of 16, right? So now this one is easier, I think, like number 1. So sine of 16 times 18, or you could say 18 times sine of 16. Okay. Equals X times 1, or X. So literally just multiply sine of 16 times 18. So let's do it. We're already in degrees, right? So sine, oh wait, I'm gonna go in parentheses just to be safe. Sine of 16, right? That's what we said. Yep. Sine of 16 times 18 is 4.96. Okay, let's talk about rounding, okay? Here we have 4.96, and we want to round to only one number after the decimal, the tenths, right? T-E-N-T-H-S, tenths. So here we have 4.96. So we need to look at the number after the tenths. Here's the tenths, is the tenths place is the 9. So the sixth is the hundredths place. So this 6 is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, right? So this 6 makes the 9 go up. If the 9 goes up, that becomes like, what's 1 more than 9? 10. Well, if this becomes a 10, then this number goes up, and then this number becomes 0. So 4.96 rounded to the tenths, to the nearest tenths, is 5.0. Okay, 5.0. Yeah, so 5.0 should be the value of x. And if you think about it logically, think about, okay, if this is 18, we know that this side is definitely shorter. This side right here is definitely shorter than this side. So when you look at like 5 and 18, it's like, that looks like it would be about 5. And in fact, it is. It has a length of 5. And just to double check, 5.0, there it is. Sweet. So you guys are now ready for your homework. Class 113 homework. I will say, where should I put this? I don't know where to put this when I'm talking to you. We're gonna go like this. When you guys are doing your homework tonight, I think you should have no problem getting every answer. As usual, today is a lecture day, so you're not going to send me your homework until after you watch the solution video and check your answers. But I told 10th grade this, and I'll tell you guys too. Even though you have no homework to send me, I will give you the option, and this is the option. If you want to email me today and just say, hey, Mr. Andy, I just want to tell you that I understood the lecture, this topic, that would be awesome. If you want to just email me and say like, I understood, that would make me really happy. It's not for points, you don't have to, but if you feel like it, you can email me, just tell me that. Or if you have questions, as usual, if number 1 or 2 or 3 did not make sense to you too much, then you can email me and say, Mr. Andy, can you explain number 2 a little bit more? And I'll be happy to explain more to you. So yeah, guys, today's Monday when you're watching this. So have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll see you guys next class.